The magic around receptor interactions is that if you have two single receptors, they interact and they create something new. So it's receptor A, receptor B, and what we're talking about is then always receptor C. So there is a completely new pharmacology that results from the interaction of these two receptors, and that is a really global concept.
BioNeex is the first biopharma R&D open exchange platform for licensing and co-development partnerships of drug candidates. We are working closely with biopharmaceutical companies that are actively seeking preclinical and clinical stage drug candidates for in-licensing and co-development partnerships to expand their R&D pipelines. If you are a development stage biotech company and are looking for licensing and co-development partners for your drug candidates, then list them for free on BioNeex and get contacted directly by these biopharmaceutical companies. We are already working with many partners. Would you like to learn more about BioNeex? Feel free to get in touch with us. We look forward to working with you.
Hello everyone, we are back today again with BioNeex interview. Today our guest is CEO of Blue Therapeutics, Stefan Bluemmers. Hello Stefan, thank you for being our guest.
Thanks for having me, much appreciated.
So I'll introduce very quick what the Blue Therapeutics is, and then I'll give you the word to Stefan. So the Blue Therapeutics is a Boston-based biotech company developing novel drug candidates with broad applicability across many diseases. It's a disruptive platform technology utilizing the concept of receptor interactions. So please, Stefan, tell us about Blue Therapeutics more and what makes this development stage biotech company so unique.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so where to start? I mean, on one side, it's the typical Boston startup story, and this was three brilliant scientists sitting together in a lab at Harvard. And realizing that they have something really unique in their hands, and they founded a company around that in 2015. The company has been public grant funded so far, so it's I want to call it we're a seasoned startup. I came on board only last year as a CEO to really lead the expansion of the company. And this is to your question, and you mentioned already receptor interactions. If there's anything unique about the company, it's all around this concept. And I have to go take a step back and look at what drug discovery and development really has been also for me. I've been 20 years in the industry. I'm a medical doctor by training, so I've been sort of socialized in the traditional way in drug discovery, and that was always look for a single receptor and try to get as selective as possible ligand for that receptor that you want to target. And this is how I grew up. Everything else was like dirty drugs and don't think beyond that. So when I got in touch with Blue Therapeutics, they kind of educated me that I was a fool. I'm like, what are you talking about? And in the end, what the magic around receptor interactions is that if you have two single receptors, they interact and they create something new. So it's receptor A, receptor B, and what we're talking about is then always receptor C. So there is a completely new pharmacology that results from the interaction of these two receptors, and that is a really global concept, right? That's why the applicability is so broad across so many diseases. And the unique pharmacology that results from that, you can also manipulate. So it's not only that there's something happening, but we're also able to manipulate it in a very selective fashion. So with that, the interaction becomes a new drug target in its own right. And that is really, I think, the departure from the single receptor dogma that we have been living in. We are moving on here to the interaction that is a drug target in its own right with very unique features. And if I go on a little bit about that, we only have today about 800 drug targets. So all of the world's drugs today are targeting roughly around 800 targets. And that's also true for about 90% of the pipeline. So it's not that the industry's research is focused on finding new receptors. A lot of it is hunting for the undruggable receptor and trying to really solve the problem for the single receptor. Now, if you just take the 800 and just entertain the math idea for a second, right? If you think that you can combine all those 800 receptors and they all become a new drug target, all of a sudden, you of course have thousands and thousands of new drug targets. And that's sort of the vision we're really trying to put forward, that even with the known drug targets, let's looking at the interactions, we have a whole new world to discover. And of course, we have our pipeline is very focused within that big universe, but the vision, and when you ask about the uniquenesses, that we are recognizing this kind of new universe of drug targets resulting from receptor interactions.
Very nice. Is there any similar, like already drug candidates or drugs in the market, something like that you think existing and you're trying, to do better than they are doing?
There's always parts of that concept. So certainly receptor interactions have been recognized, right? So if you look into do the typical PubMed search for receptor interactions, you see also an increasing level of evidence over the past 10, 15 years. There's roughly around 200,000 publications around that. But it's always very, very isolated. So there's a little bit here, a little bit there. No drug has made it to the market really, or even has been advanced. It's sort of a research tool. So some people thought, okay, let's see what happens there. Mm-hmm. But it has not really been brought forward as a completely new concept, a comprehensive business model, if you want.
Now we are naturally coming to the next question, where you can more specify your current drug development pipeline, as you talk already, the proprietary platform technology, and more specifically, which indications you are now trying to approach and apply this technology.
Okay, so in the 5 years that the company has been working on this, the main work was on the lead asset, which is Blue-181. Mm-hmm. Which is targeting a new receptor interaction between two opioid receptors, between the mu and the kappa opioid receptor, which is a new target, which we have also given the name HM2K, is the new drug target, as we call it. And it's if you're a little familiar, and the audience will be, with the opioid crisis, right? Especially in the US. And you see that most of the opioids work on the mu receptor. And it causes a lot of side effects, right? So they are fantastic in terms of targeting in terms of analgesia, but we have addiction, we have respiratory depression that leads in the typical overdose case then even to death. Now, what we have seen with our molecule is we are completely separating the efficacy from the side effects. So our molecule here is 30 to 40 times more efficacious in terms of analgesia than morphine, which is sort of the standard of care still in a lot of ways. But we don't show any respiratory depression, we don't show any addictive properties, no tolerance development, no abuse potential. So this is kind of the magic, if you want, being able to separate effect from side effect. And that is the general. This was not only the lead asset, which is now approaching IND. So we will hope to start clinical trials about a year from now. But it also was the blueprint really, and helped us realize the power of the technology. So there was a lot of work went into identifying the mu-kappa interaction as the, let's say, holy grail in that space. And we're actually bringing it forward in our lead indication, irritable bowel syndrome. So not in pain. So we have a de-risk path really into the clinic because it's a gut-targeted formulation in IBS. But now we have, over the past couple of years, we've been branching out and developing new ideas and found new signs of different interactions. So we have follow-up programs that are now in early preclinical stage in infectious disease. Of course, we have a COVID program. The COVID virus, I should say, is a big fan of our platform because it actually has decided to enter the human cells through an interaction of two receptors, of two host receptors. We have a platform around CNS, which is really also where we come from. And in this case, it's a Parkinson drug, which is also in preclinical stage. We have a program in oncology, and we have a program in metabolic disease around diabetes. The reason for the breadth of this pipeline currently is to show that broad applicability. And it's not only the indications, but it's also the receptor types. So going a little bit into detail, the opioid receptor world, so the mu kappa is a GPCR receptor, but it's not limited to that. Those are constitutively expressed, so they are a structure that can be targeted as interaction, but there's also transient interactions and also between different receptor types. So if we look into oncology, into our breast cancer program, there we're looking at nuclear receptors. If we're looking at our COVID, the host factors in COVID-19, those are enzymatic receptors. So the platform, the interaction concept is really a very general rule. You need to then, and this is, I think, our expertise, what we bring to the table, you need to understand which interactions to target where and where they make a difference in the disease biology. But you will find examples for that in essentially every receptor interaction, every receptor class, and every indication.
Very interesting what you're explaining. Let me ask you this question, Stefan. As we know, lots of early stage biotechs, although they also have some disruptive, unique proprietary platform technology, they are trying to stay focused on one or two indication space, therapeutic areas. What brought you under your vision and leadership to go so broad indications, so different therapeutic areas? Is there any strategy behind of that? Is there any specific indication that you probably think to move the company towards?
Yeah, thanks. That's a very good question, right? Because we have to walk this fine line, especially as a startup, between showing the optionality and the wealth of opportunities, and at the same time, a clear expectation towards a startup is focus, right? We keep hearing that all the time. But here, it is really important to show the optionality, right? So this is why we're going broad. So we're covering the most important receptor classes, and we're covering indications with a high unmet need, and which at the same time, and is of course related, also represent a commercial opportunity. At the same time, our focus area is really more the CNS part. I think our chief scientific officer and a big part of our scientific advisory board, which we're very proud of, and also myself, we have been working in the CNS area for quite a while. And if we're going forward, looking forward, then this is also where we would focus our own development on, right? So we're looking forward to be at some point a fully integrated company, which develops or at least participates in full development. Don't want to talk about commercialization yet at this point, but the platform is it would be a waste to not also look into the other opportunities. So there, however, partnering becomes much more important. So while in the CNS area, we will drive the programs forward through preclinical into the clinic and do our own development. In the other indications, we would develop preclinical packages which demonstrate in a very robust fashion that it works. Here's a molecule, here's the data, and then we would partner either for co-development or really out-license at an early stage. It also becomes for us an early revenue generator then, these kind of strategic partnerships that we would be looking for.
Very interesting. I want to also bring under our audience attention that Blue Therapeutics, that's why also member of BioNeex. They listed some of their drug candidates or already preclinical, what Stefan mentioned on BioNeex. And we want to welcome those companies and larger ones who are interested, such a unique platform technology, to come to get on BioNeex and get directly in touch with Blue Therapeutics. And this is, I think, in my opinion, I've interviewed also a couple of other CEOs of biotech who's now very successful. They pursued this the strategy too. Although they were having a certain, expertise focus, they were trying to show that platform really can be applicable in many disease areas. So they can, as you say, Stefan, can license out or co-development some of their pipeline assets, and in this way kind of bring the liquidity in the company and pursue other indications. So I think that's very good strategy. Now it's understandable more for the audience why you guys doing this broad disease applicability. I think now we would come to another question. As you start to talk a little bit about the company vision, what would be your next short-term and mid-term goal that you as a CEO are trying to accomplish, that you're pushing all your team, all your efforts towards that?
Yeah, in team, I think is the key word in that, right? Because we are essentially operating virtually at this point. We're only a small group of people. The good thing about that is we have a fantastic external network of collaborators, which we have been working together with for years and years. So they're almost part of the family, but it's a virtual operation. And it limits us also in terms of what we can do quantitatively, speed-wise. We've been public grant funded, which is a fantastic thing in the US, I have to say. I know you're sitting in Germany, and the Germans should look over and learn a bit here. But it also brings limitations with it, and you cannot, build a company continuously on public grants. So we are in a fundraising phase now. All startups are in fundraising all the time, obviously. But for us, it's a crucial step to go from the virtual operation where we are now to really building our own lab and being able to really then exploit the platform that we have to its fullest degree. So that would be the next step, hiring some key positions to really manage the growth with us.
Very interesting. So just summarize this answer of yours, Stefan. You are right now looking for Series A funding, so you are well funded by grants, but now really to scale up the process to hire key people and build your own lab to be able to really utilize this unique technology, you need more money. Let me ask probably the last question. Who would be this ideal partner on one side, who can support you with funding, but as well as with their know-how and technology or experience? So what kind of funding are you looking? Are you looking more institutional funding, like experienced biotech VCs, or more like a private fund? Tell us a little bit about your fundraising strategy.
Yeah, I think primarily we're right now starting to talk to the venture capital world, which is the typical approach at this point for Series A. In parallel, however, we do start talking to potential strategic partners, and also to try to understand, right? You mentioned learning and what is what we're looking for. We also want to learn, right? We want to learn what exactly, let's say, the data is that the strategic partners would want to see. What is the inflection point where they want to jump on board? And the same is for the VC world, right? We are, it's a new technology, if you want, right? So we're not in the gene therapy, we're not in the CRISPR, we're not a CD47, we're not an IL-2 company that seem to have a much easier time. We have to explain our technology because it's rather new. So we're looking for really companies that are open to truly disruptive and new approaches and willing to embark on that journey together with us, be it on the VC side or be it also on the strategic partner side.
Very good. So we are also having on BioNeex on the drug candidate seeker side, a couple of largest European pharma companies with actively their venture arms. So we definitely will try to connect Blue Therapeutics with you, Stefan, directly with them. I think that's very, very interesting because you said you are bringing something completely new. And it's worth for pharmas to take a look at.
Thank you very much again. Much appreciated talking to you and having the chance to spread the news.
Thank you, Stefan. So I want to remind once again our audience that today our guest was the CEO of Blue Therapeutics, Stefan Bluemmers. So Blue Therapeutics is a Boston-based biotech company developing novel drug candidates with broad applicability based on their unique platform technology, a concept which is utilizing receptor interactions. Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll come again with another BioNeex interview.